You're not gonna like anything that I have to say in this video. Make sure you guys smash the living crap out of that subscribe button so you guys don't miss out on more awesome content. So I got a couple comments today I wanted to address on a couple things. The first one was talking about, I don't know why you're hating on Tenpai. Konami typically ends up touching decks out here that perform and do well. And I don't know why you think that Tenpai meets these requirements when it's clearly Snake Eyes and Yubel. Oh, did this put me in a tantrum. You had, shirtless Robbie out here going, ain't no way. That's what I read today. Well, I'm here to talk about this because evidently I've become this massive anti-Tenpai player out here. Evidently, you do know I have played Tenpai, right? You understand that as soon as this deck came out, I picked up the entire core. We have been on infinite talks about Tenpai out here. But suddenly, I'm hating on the deck and, being like, oh, I can't believe, they're reprinting Trident Dragon out here, why would Konami hit it? And it's like, anybody remember Zodiac? Anybody remember Firewall Dragon? We have a classical list of things out here to talk about that are all opposite counterpoints to this. And once again, I am not hating on Tenpai. You just have to understand that if you're checking Snake Eyes and Yubel at the top end of the meta, the best decks in the room, when you bring down that ceiling, oh shit, would it be Tenpai being the next best deck in the room? No way. I never would have guessed that. You can't tell me that Konami hasn't looked at tournament data out of the OCG where they put Sengen Summoning to 1, and guess what? This deck is absolutely destroying the meta out there. Oh, well, that's very strange. So what happens if the TCG chose not to touch Tenpai? Let me tell you exactly what would happen. If we knock out Snake Eye, we knock out Yubel, you have the best going second deck in the fundamental universe. There is not another deck in the room that can come close to touching this. And you think it's okay to not check this in some sort of scenario? I also think that there's a misinterpretation to what's going on here, because Tenpai's not going to receive the same level of considerable hits that we're seeing out here with, Yubel and the other challenger in the room, Snake Eyes. There is no way that Konami is going to look and go, okay, well, if we need to blow up Yubel, we need to blow up Snake Eyes, and then you come on down to Tenpai. The only two things you need to do to Tenpai to make this deck doable in the format is Sengen Summoning to 1, and probably the Quick Play spell card to 1 as well. Congratulations, I fixed Tenpai for you. And you're going to be like, I can't believe that, you want to put... No, alright? Stop it. I'm not hating on Tenpai. You have to realize, though, when you are knocking out peg after peg, alright, and you're lowering that ceiling, Tenpai is sitting there as the gatekeeper for the casual intermediate player on down to the lower half of the tiers. You have to understand that, alright? And I guess pointing out that, oh no, Tenpai is some super strong going second. I don't know why I've become the bad guy at saying, yeah, they're probably going to put the field spell to 1. Every competitive Yu-Gi-Oh player out here that has played for the last couple of months with Tenpai is going to tell you the exact same thing. That field spell is going to 1. Or they're going to put Sengen Kaiho to 1, and they're going to call it a day. Alright, one of the two of these things is going to happen to Tenpai, because that deck cannot remain unchecked. Every OCG tier list will tell you the same thing. Tenpai is such an ignorant deck. Like, it is crazy to look at the OCG tier list and like, oh yeah, S tier. It's always Tenpai. And one field spell, yeah, it slows them down. Yeah, sure. But, still I have triple quick play spell card in my hand. Free special summon, and you're dead. So I guess that has painted me into some sort of villain out here. It's just, this is the most realistic thing that every Yu-Gi-Oh player seems to need to realize out here, that we are going to see a check to Tenpai, whether or not you're like, oh, like they don't need to hit it. That's crazy. Honestly, if Tenpai were to go completely unscathed this list, you would have more people quitting than you would realize, because there's going to be like, they opened up Droplet, broke my board, Harpy's Feather Dust or Lightning Storm, maybe Heavy Storm. Like, nobody wants to deal with that right now. That is not the level of fun that the competitive community wants to be dealing with out here. This next one is, why is nobody talking about grass? Now, for those of you that have forgotten about Grass Looks Greener out here, I don't know why you have even needed to crazily mention this card's existence out here, but okay. So, the reason why nobody's talking about grass is because we've done that years ago. Alright, like, fundamentally, this is the same Electromite argument that we've had out here. Everybody's kind of doing the exact same thing. They're like, oh, yeah, we're calling it a day on this discussion. You know, grass had its time. Everybody looked around with it. It was broken. You know, a lot of people, I've genuinely heard we can bring grass back to 2. And, you can have some sort of fun in the meta with it. I mean, yeah, you can do something with it. But my problem with that is 2 grass, I think, is too much. I think if Konami were to want to bump grass up in the meta to a different number, it'd be 1. But then the problem is, okay, so now you've got 60 card pile decks that are suddenly looking super gimmicky out here that suddenly want to try this out. They're like, ooh, I have 1 grass. Problem is, though, seeing 1 grass in a 5-round local, you're probably not going to see it at all unless you thrust into it. Having the extra copies of thrust kind of helps you do see that grass. So 1 grass, I don't think makes a difference, realistically. Like, you allow a little bit more sackiness and you create, I would say, maybe a 2% uptick in the entire player base wanting to try this out. In terms of consistency and topping ratios, not going to happen. Now, you got to remember that also you have the time rule to kind of think about here too. Allowing grass to exist in the game means that those heavy combo decks that are going to mill 20 cards now have an entire 20 extra card hand. So now their turns have now bumped up. And that's where, once you move grass to 2, you get the real headache out here of, okay, well now suddenly these 50, 60 card versions of these decks are now suddenly seeing a greater uptick because you've now upped the consistency by a lot. Moving the dial from 0 to 1 feels insignificant, in my opinion. Yeah, you might see some 50 card tier decks show up out here trying to play it, and you might have to deal with that at the locals. But then when you raise it to 2, suddenly, plus with thrust, you've now bumped it up from 5 copies, or from 4 copies in a deck with thrust and that to 5. You are now reaching high consistency levels out here, and I think that's the thing that people kind of look at and they're like, this is kind of crazy to actually be seeing out here. So I don't think grass is going to 2, let alone 3. All right, that's not happening. All right, you got to remember, the reason why grass is in the situation it's in the TCG is because of those time rules. Because you have decks that are taking 20, 30 minutes out here, looking at these things, and they're taking their sweet time with these huge dumps. And it's pretty ridiculous out here to see these turnovers with these things, and just the overall time rules are bad. Time rules are dog shit. Problem here, though, is, once again, you are going to see people out here with these heavy combo builds because they want to experiment. Grass is a card that fundamentally promotes exploration in the game and makes people go, I want to try this out. I want to see what we can, deal with out here. And I think that's actually a pretty cool idea. But it's not going to happen. Like Electromite moving at this point, Kami just doesn't want to deal with the complicated issues that arise with these cards because they're bad, okay? That wraps up everything I really had to say in this video. I wanted to say that, we're so close to a ban list. But I wanted to clarify, some of these little question points. You're not going to agree with everything I have to say in this video for sure, but you need to understand there are a lot of different sides to these equations that you have to understand. Like especially with the Tenpai thing out here, why you're going to see these decks getting checked in the way they are, and being confused about it. That's how it is. I hope you guys have a good rest of your day. All right, patrons, thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.